No, okay, now it's good.
Good afternoon. This afternoon I'd like to talk to you about climate change and how it has become a polarizing issue of this decade. And whether we believe it or not, I want to discuss with you the action that we must take to minimize its effects. Now, the very fact that some claim that global warming or global change is a consensus of all the scientists, I want to point out I think that it's irrelevant, and I'll tell you why in just a few minutes. But we need to discuss whether or not it's a myth or a fact, and then we need to discuss what action we need to take in order to eliminate the effects that it may have. I would suggest that we do not rely on emotions or politics to resolve a scientific conflict, but let us look at what the scientific consensus has told us, not only now, but in the past. First of all, as I told you, I think it's irrelevant what the scientific consensus is. At one point, the scientific consensus was that the Earth is flat. We know from the days of Christopher Columbus that that was the case. And that was proven to be wrong. We know that some thought that it was the sun revolving around the Earth in the days of Galileo, instead of the Earth revolving around the sun. There are also those, back in my generation, in the 50s, 60s, that talked about the Earth heading for an ice age. In the 1950s, my weekly reader talked about the impending doom that the Earth was going to have as a result of an ice age. Eon Clymer claimed that the last 2 years of global cooling have already erased nearly 30 years of temperature increase. I think that what we really need to understand is that the Earth is round, regardless of what scientific conclusion or consensus used to be. That the Earth does revolve around the sun, regardless of what the scientific consensus used to be. And now that the scientific consensus seems to be that global warming is a fact. Is that true or is it not? Is it because of scientific consensus that makes it right? Al Gore, in his widely publicized Inconvenient Truth movie, claimed that it was. He received the Nobel Prize in 2007 as a result. But is global warming myth or fact? It all centers around the very nature of carbon. It's the central issue of whether carbon dioxide is the result or the cause of global warming. The relationship between carbon dioxide and global warming is widely accepted. But Coleman Jenkins said in the Wall Street Journal that it is a hypothesis, one that science can make stronger or weaker, but cannot prove. We can look at the claimed effects of global warming. They say it involves the melting ice caps, rising ocean levels, extreme weather conditions. But is that correct? Or is it just seasonal changes? Or would this be the case whether the temperature was warming or not? Because in the past decade, as the temperatures get cooler, we still see them promoting such agenda. And thirdly, what should the temperature of the Earth be? I was taught that dinosaurs roamed the Earth in tropical sweltering heat, and they were killed by the Ice Age. So are we simply returning to that original state? But regardless of your position, we must adapt. Climate change is a fact. Whether it's warming or cooling, climate will change. It's the very nature. How do we adapt? Kendall said that people no longer focus on whether humans are responsible. The question is, how can the world adapt? And indeed, I want to talk about that for just a few seconds here. Al Gore even said that our way of thinking has changed. The Earth itself began to occupy our thoughts. And Al Gore has been instrumental in bringing about this discussion. But do we let government dictate the change? In the 1970s, They passed the Clean Air Act, which changed catalytic converters, converted carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide. Carbon offset and cap and trade surely cause nothing but economic harm. And the Kyoto Protocol in Stockholm is just a transfer of wealth. Do we take responsibility? Should we be good stewards of the gift that we have been given? Will we use our resources wisely, or will we leave the problem to our children and grandchildren? We need to write our congressmen. We need to combine trips to save gas. We need to change our thermostats to save on cooling and heating. We need to recycle. We need us to think about the responsibility to save our planet and not leave it up to government to control every aspect of our life. I would urge you to start with your congressman and to end with taking your own responsibility for whatever's in your possession to save us from global climate change. Thank you. Red button.